Hello, everyone. So, about me, I'm Kalpesh. I'm working in cloud and application security from 11 years and also um, head of technology for WordPress team in miniOrange. So, we'll talk about WordPress security checklists here. So, before that, uh, why we are talking about WordPress or why WordPress security matters. So, if I see the numbers, 43% of the sites are running on WordPress. So you can say 43% of the internet is running on WordPress. So those sites have millions of users. So it's important. So security for WordPress is important, and its primary target of attackers because like 43% of the population is there. So the question, as it is widely used CMS, the question you might be asking is, isn't WordPress secure by default? I'll say partially yes. Uh, so WordPress code contributor team is working hard to make sure that WordPress stays secure. So that is being taken care of. But there are some default settings in WordPress which are enabled by default, and that makes it somewhat vulnerable because those settings will go through that. What are these? But these are not being used by you, but still open by default. Um, and one more reason for this is there are as WordPress is popular and the way it is developed is to make it scalable. WordPress has the architecture where you can put your own plugins, your own themes, and so the third-party themes and plugins make it more vulnerable because um, it goes through WordPress team's code review, but sometimes there are still chances because there are millions of plugins in the WordPress repository, and doing code review for each and every plugin in each release is not possible. So that's the one more issue with WordPress. So we'll go through some of the security practices which you should follow to keep your WordPress secure. So first and most basic, I think we have heard that from the start of the day. Strong passwords, very important. Um, so why it is required? If we go through why it is required, the screenshot shows the admin username password, which is whenever you set up WordPress on your local host or somewhere, I think 90% of the people keep admin as username password on their localist, and some of them push the same thing on the production. And so if you have weak passwords, you can easily get hacked by brute force attacks. So if you guys don't know about brute force attack, it is the hackers try different combination of username and password to hack to guess the password, to guess the credentials of your account to get inside your WordPress site, or it applies to other applications as well. So brute force is very common attack, and so that's so to save your site from brute force attacks, strong passwords are required. And so by default, WordPress does not provide that. There are no settings in WordPress where you can say that WordPress should enforce the strong password. So what you can do is you can install Password Policy Managers plugin. There are multiple plugins available on WordPress. So you can pick one, and you can install the Password Policy Manager plugin. You can set the policy for strong password. You can set one more policy that whenever someone log in next time, whenever admin is setting password for the user accounts, on next login, reset their password. And password expiry is also important because if your passwords get compromised and it is in a dark web, so someone might pick it from there and hack your account. So password expiry is also important. So keep password expiry. You must have seen in banks as well. Whenever you log in into bank websites, they ask you to reset your password after some interval. So that's important. So setting up strong password, that was first. So whenever you set up the WordPress admin, you keep admin as the username. You pick admin as the username. And that makes half of the job easier. You just have to guess the password of the user now. Again, the brute force approach. So you can see admin, administrator, root. These are common WordPress usernames, which are being used by the WordPress, who have set up the WordPress or WordPress administrators. And that increases the risk of brute force attacks. The next thing is, again, related to brute force attack. Now, earlier, it was username password thing, what to provide in the input. Now this is where to do brute force attack. So wplogin.php is the file which is used for WordPress login page. And so wplogin.php file does not have any rate limiting by default. So whenever you try to log in on some cloud application or some website, after 3 failed attempts, it says that your account is locked for next 24 hours. Try after next 24 hours. That is because to avoid brute force, you can't attempt with thousands of combinations, thousands of passwords to hack the account. So, but in WordPress, wplogin.php, it is open by default. It does not have any rate limiting. You can do any number of username password combination attacks with brute force. So it's very important to hide that. It's a common practice to hide that and rename it to something else. So how to do that is you can simply rename wplogin.php to mylogin.php. Just an example. You can keep it more secure, not guessable name. And along with that, that wplogin.php has an HTML code which has form post to same file which has wplogin.php mentioned. So you'll have to modify that references of wplogin.php to your new name, which you're picking for the file name. Like I said, WordPress does not have rate limiting by default. You'll have to install the third-party plugins for that. So on normal side, you can see that after, let's say, 20 attempts, you can see the too many failed attempts error was there. So it is not authenticating you now, and your account is locked for the day. But in WordPress, you can do as many attempts as possible as you want. And for that, there are some plugins like limit login attempt or WordFence security. These are popular plugins with which you can set the time, set the number of attempts you can do in a day or in an hour in, let's say, 5 minutes of time. So you can configure that. So ideally, 3 attempts, you should set 3 attempts allowed in 5 minutes. And second, if you have multiple options available, so in a day, it should not be more than 20 login attempts. After 3 failed attempts, you can set the blocking of the, you can block the user account for 1 day, ideally. And so that, and if the user is, that was a false positive, if that was a genuine user, the user can contact the administrator. Okay, so again, so next thing is again related to WordPress defaults. WordPress APIs. So WordPress provides REST APIs. So it's a CMS, WordPress is CMS. Along with that, it provides REST APIs with which you can connect to mobile applications. Mobile applications are getting popular with WordPress now. So you can connect mobile applications with that. So if you look at this API, WP-JSON v2 users, so it provides user information. The users which exist on your WordPress site. And this API is also open by default. You can see that from here you can get the username of the name of the user, admin. And once you get the name, again, brute force, for brute force, you can guess the password. Half of your work is done. You can, if this is site where you have your customers are registering, all their information will be leaked if this API is open. This is just an example. There are many other APIs, which some of them come from third-party plugins, like WooCommerce is there. So those APIs are also open by default. And so that can, so most of the information from your WordPress site, which might be a critical information, can get leaked through the APIs. So, so you should keep your APIs disabled. If you're not using it, if you don't have mobile applications, or if you don't have any other application using WordPress APIs, ideally you should keep that disabled. There are plugins available in WordPress Marketplace, disable WordPress APIs. You can simply search that, which can disable the APIs. And in case you want to use the APIs, so you should use the plugins which allow API only after you're authorized or you're authenticated user. So authentication is verify who you are, and authorization is what content you can access. Like you can just access specific content or all content. Admin can access everything. Subscribers can access specific content. So you can do the authorization as well, so that even if you are authenticated, you can access only limited content and don't give access to all the content. So there are plugins available for that as well. You can, if you are using APIs, you can set up authentication and authorization instead of completely disabling the plugins, APIs. So next is two-factor authentication. So why two-factor is required is, you might have seen the phishing emails, phishing SMS, which can trick you into entering username and password on the phishing sites. So even if you have strong password, that is not enough. The attackers might trick you to enter the username password on their proxy domain, phishing domains, phishing sites. And once that is done, they can hijack your session and get access to your account. But if you have a two-factor enabled on the phishing sites, it will ask for 2FA, and so it will save you from getting your session hijacked. So 2FA is, that's why important. Okay, so how to enable 2FA? So for 2FA, there are WordPress two-factor authentication plugin available in the WordPress Marketplace. Again, that is not provided by WordPress. That is not provided by WordPress by default, and you have to rely on third-party plugin. So what we see here is, for everything we are relying on the third-party plugin. So that is increasing the security risk, because third-party plugin code is now we had to go in a direction that if the third-party plugin is does not contain malware or does not have is not from some other attacker. There are more such predefined options provided by WordPress, which increases the risk. Next is disable file editing. So in WordPress, if you look at this screenshot, it provides theme editor or plugins editor inside admin dashboard itself. So let's say you're working with someone, if you're working with some third-party company, or you give access to your WordPress admin dashboard to someone, they can easily edit. You might be thinking that I just given access to WordPress and my server is safe with me. But it's not. In this editor, that person can write a code to read all files located outside this WordPress folder. So with f of 1, they can open any location. It can be etc or any location on your server that can be open from the code which you can write here. And so, so it so when you provide this access, it's not just WordPress. They can read all the content on your server, every file on your server. So that increases the risk. So whenever you are giving access to someone, the admin dashboard access, you should keep that disabled. So that can be done through WP config file. WP config is the config file where you put all your WordPress configurations. One of that configuration is disallow file edit true. If you put this option here, it won't show that editor for everything like themes, plugins. It will disable that for all of the third-party options and also WordPress core. Again, so when again the default table names, the default prefix for table names when you install the WordPress is WP underscore, and we keep that as it is when we install. We don't change that. So it makes your table name easily guessable. So you can see the table names in WordPress. You'll see 99.99% of the sites using the same prefix because it comes when you install the WordPress. So for attacks like SQL injection or other DB attacks, it makes attackers easier to guess your table name. So keep a different unique prefix for your databases. So that can be done when you install the WordPress. So whenever WordPress installation screen comes, you can specify the prefix. That's the one way if you are doing new installations. And for existing installations, you'll have to change the table names. So that's a kind of migration. So that might need some efforts. So one thing is you will have to change all the prefix in the tables. And the prefix for that is mentioned in WP config file. So second step is changing WP underscore from the file to the unique prefix which you are picking. OK, so next thing is this is not related to WordPress, but it is related to Apache. So directory indexing is by default enabled in Apache. If you go to, let's say, the WordPress base URL /wp includes or wp add, content, it will show you all the files which are inside that, inside the folder. So with that, you can easily see the file contents and sensitive information. If there are some files with the sensitive information, it can be easily downloaded. And so that gives attacker an idea how your server can be attacked. So you are giving hints to attacker how they can attack your server. So it is important to disable that. So that can be done through specifying options indexes in your htaccess file. You can put that in the root directory of your WordPress so that it disable the directory listing for all nested folders. The next is XML RPC. So WordPress has a feature, XML RPC. So what it does is it allows you to do multitasking. So let's say an example of that is we were talking about brute force attack. So brute force attack is one API call at the time. But if you use XML RPC, you can do thousands of brute force attacks, thousands of password checks in single API call. So that's a feature of XML RPC. So system.multicall is a function in XML RPC which allows you to perform thousands of operations in a same API call or same WordPress function call. So that's very dangerous. So if you have XML RPC and even if you have rate limiting enable, your site can get compromised. So it's very important to disable this. If you are not using it, if you don't have any mobile apps, or if you are not using XML RPC calls from any the connected WordPress application. It's very simple to disable that. You can either go to functions.php and add this line, add filter, XML RPC enabled, return false, or simply delete that file. That if you don't have any plans to use that in future, you can simply delete that file and it will get, so no one will be able to call that. So there are plugins available in Marketplace as well to disable XML RPC. If you don't have FTP access or if you don't want to do it through the file, there are plugins available as well. OK, so normally what we do is once we install the software, we keep it running for multiple years. Like we don't keep any plans to upgrade that. Same goes for WordPress. I know many people installed WordPress site 10 years ago and same are on same version. So with that, whenever there are new vulnerabilities in WordPress, attackers already have an idea how to attack your WordPress. So so that, let's say if you are on WordPress version 4.5 and there is vulnerability in that, and so that gets public. Whenever there is a vulnerability which is disclosed, it gets public. So attacker knows that this can be this is how I can target all 4.5 version sites. And if you stay on that version, the chances to get hacked increases. Your site can be easily found. It is public. It is on internet. It can be easily found. And the version name or version number of your WordPress is also public. It is easily guessable. So it's recommended that keep you updating your WordPress version frequently, at least once in 3 months. OK. So like I said, to solve many issues, we install third-party plugins. So we are relying on third-party plugins. And for UI also, we are relying on third-party themes. So there are thousands of plugins and themes available in WordPress Marketplace. And according to WordPress current structure, those plugins goes through code review only during first submission. And for subsequent release or updates in those versions, the code review is not done. WordPress team assumes that we have done the review for first version, so the publisher will take care of the rest of the versions. They trust on the publishers. But in some cases, by accidentally, a vulnerability can be added by the publishers, third-party publishers. So, and again, that vulnerability gets public because there are multiple, like WordFence, there are multiple security companies in WordPress who are making the vulnerabilities public so that everyone knows that there is a risk. So using the third-party plugins are dangerous. And along with that, using third-party plugins from untrusted source is more riskier because on Marketplace, at least one review is done, but there are some paid versions of the free plugins available on the Marketplace, which people download from untrusted sources, torrents, from torrents we download movies. So for WordPress, we call it nulled plugins, null themes. Sometimes we download it to save money from third-party sources, the untrusted sources. But those plugins might have, it might be a Trojan horse. They might give you a free paid version, but inside that, they might have written extra code to hack your entire server. So stay away from untrusted sources. What you can do is download plugins only from official WordPress repository. Um, that to check reviews of the plugins, community feedback, ratings, and after that only download the plugins. Don't download the new plugins which has 0 reviews or 0 installs. That might be, again, there might be that Trojan horse there. Okay, so key takeaways from this is WordPress have many settings which are open by default, like there are APIs, XML, RPC. So, uh, so try to change that, like hide your WP login.php, delete your XML, RPC, or disable your XML, RPC, disable your APIs. So disable everything which is WordPress has kept enabled by default. Then if we consider login and credential security, WordPress does not enforce strong password. It does not have multi-factor authentication inside the platform. So for that, you'll have to rely on third-party plugin. But enable that, enable strong passwords and two-factor authentication for your WordPress, so that your users are secure. You don't face brute force attacks on your server. Then keep your core WordPress themes and plugins updated, because there are vulnerabilities which gets public. So keep everything updated, or you can also keep the security plugins installed, which points out if any of your version has the vulnerability. Like the installed versions on your site, if one of the version have vulnerability, you can get the email notification and act on that. Either disable that plugin until the patch is available for that, or you can update if the patch is available, simply update to the latest version. And avoid using plugins and themes from untrusted sources, which might have malware inside that. So if you have WordPress site, what you can do is in next 1 week, you can switch to strong username and password with some third-party plugin. You can enable multi-factor authentication for at least for admin users, because enabling it for entire organization or the company is not possible immediately. So in next 1 week, at least all your admins can have multi-factor enabled. Remove all, change your default login pages, WP underscore prefix, all default settings to something unique, secure. Disable WP APIs or XML RPC, which are if you are not using it, disable that. And if for the next 1 month, what you can do is you can enable two-factor authentication for complete organization, rest of the users as well. You can, if you have plans to use WordPress APIs, so in initial state, we have disabled it. So you can put strong authentication and authorization for WordPress APIs so that they are secure. Someone who's accessing the APIs, they can securely access it with some security tokens like JWT. Change your DB prefix to WP underscore. That is, I think, that task can take long time. So that's why that is in 1 month action plan. Update your WP core plugins and themes to latest version. That also needs some testing. So that's why that's in 1 month plan. And so identify and fix themes which have vulnerability in active versions. So for that, you can rely on WordFence or some other security vendors who maintain the database that which versions have active vulnerabilities. So I think that's it. If you guys have any questions, I can answer that.
You can queue up in the middle in front of the mic if you have any questions.
OK. So this is a QR for feedback for this session. You can scan this, and if you have any feedback, you can give on that. So I guess no questions. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for attending Identity Shield Day 1. We'll see you tomorrow the sessions will start from 10 a.m. tomorrow. So see you there. Thank you.